I was called to help a family with their mountain property, and in the process, I fell in love with it. When I purchased it, I made a promise to rebuild the cabin their grandfather built almost 100 years ago. It comes with many challenges. With help from my Uncle Mike, we're making it happen. I'm a full-time realtor in Sheridan, Wyoming, with an amazing team that covers me for the month of September so I can work on the property. This year was especially challenging, but I'm so grateful to see progress made. So most of the times when we're preparing everything for milling, it is a long process and we never know when the tree or where the tree is going to come down at. Most of them are between trees and there's quite a bit of brush to clean up, branches to take care of, and then we have to lift the logs. Many of the logs will range because the cabin's 12 feet, so in order to plan for some of the edging cuts and other things, we make them 13 feet long. Some of the other ones, when we get into the roof, they'll be 17 feet long or 16 feet long because we'll need 15-foot logs. Makes for some really heavy logs that we have to deadlift. And on the side of the hill, makes it pretty challenging. We also have to do makeshift little sawhorses or little things to keep them off the ground so that way we're not putting chainsaw blades into the dirt. So constantly making these little makeshift deals just about on every log. It's kind of a custom cut as we go. Many of these logs, we really wanted to make sure that they're good, dry, dead standing trees that we're using, and being as responsible as we can means that it's not like we can move them around the mountain. So where they fall, that's where we mill them. The next part is getting our rack system and putting it on top of the unmilled log. It's round, obviously not exactly straight, and so part of the rack system involves setting it down, getting it level, pulling a string line to make sure it's straight, and then leveling out with all these different adjusting screws. Then once it's, for the most part, relatively level, then we have to hammer it down so it doesn't get moved during the milling process, and then readjust. Once everything's absolutely perfect, then we can do our top cut. The chainsaw mill that we're using basically attaches to our extra long bar chainsaw. These are 72cc chainsaws that we're using for this milling cut. Basically, we're after getting a plank put together. Very heavy, very awkward, and out of balance. Needless to say, my body's a little bit out of balance after holding it. Everything runs very smoothly across the rails. However, I have to watch it every step of the way. If the bar starts moving in any way, I end up with a cut that's just not level. Once the first cut is done using the rails, then I can work off of that and mill the rest of the log. Each of these cuts have different sizes. The logs that I'm after are actual 4 by 8 inch dimensional cuts for the logs or for the rim joists. When we're doing these boards, they're 2-inch dimensional, so we're just after the 2-inch boards and just ripping through them. They go a little bit quicker, but sometimes they're not all straight. You'll see it as we go through the rest of the videos. Many times when I'm doing the milling, it's on a hillside and it is slanted, it's rough, and some of the hardest parts are that once we have a log down, we want to make the most of every cut. In this case, there's only a little bit left of what's remaining of the log, but I can certainly get another couple of inches out of it. The problem is there's not much weight to the log, and it's not like I have this really nice sawmill to hold it straight. So instead, what I end up doing here is holding everything straight. It's not easy. So as I'm milling, not only am I holding this 72 cc chainsaw level and straight, I'm actually holding the entire log through the entire process. It's not fun, but gosh, to get one more board ripped and planked and ready to go, it's nicer and easier than pulling a whole other tree down and starting all over again. So sometimes when you think the perfect dry wood, you gotta split. Hopefully it doesn't go too far in, but the drier the wood, the dead wood that we try to use has its downfall. Downfall is the rock. We'll make it work. So the next part of milling is edging the perfect 90 degrees on there. So the doctor, my Uncle Mike, puts it on this pretty sweet little setup we have, a balancing beam, and then lines everything up perfectly. He's always just double checking, and like a scalpel, he'll then get it lined up and put this edging board with the rails on it, and that way everything's just precision cut at a perfect parallel 90 degrees. Then once he lines it up, screws down the perfect edging board before he cuts it. Then once he's all lined up, puts the edging mill on there. Part of the milling process is just hard on the body, hard on the equipment. Broke one of the U-bolts in the midst of stuff, obviously shut things down, and was able to run back in, get some new ones, bought some extra too. But man, these things really work well. And I can't say enough about these Husqvarna 72cc XP chainsaws for the milling are awesome. The edging and the other stuff, we use the steel MS-170s. Gosh, getting just a kick butt chainsaw makes a big difference, but running these at full throttle, cranked up, doing I don't know what the RPMs are, it's hard on all metal and bodies. Things break. Hopefully I get it put back together and get back to it. Okay, we got it on. Let's see if it can get back to work. Many times people ask me, well, how long does it take you to mill a board? Well, it's not just that. Yeah. First, we got to take the tree down, we delimit, we prep it, we do that first cut, and then we do a plank. The other part behind the scenes is all the hours and hours of chainsaw work that we did. I would say that I was a full-time chainsaw mechanic and a part-time chainsaw, miller. It just involves so many different blades. I had a whole system on when my dull blades went into little Tupperware containers and when the sharp ones were ready to go, and change them out. We had more than 3 dozen chainsaw blades, and we're constantly working on it. And it's just part of the process to make sure everything's cut straight, even, and nice and smooth for all the logs and boards that we're working on.